The darkness of space stretched endlessly in all directions, dotted with distant stars that flickered like tiny diamonds against black velvet. Scout Commander Zixter stood on the bridge of his vessel. His 3 eyes focused on the holographic display before him. The display showed nothing unusual at first, just the empty void that separated the known galaxy from the unexplored territories beyond. Zixter had been a scout commander for 20 cycles now. He belonged to the Velnathi, a proud species known throughout the Galactic Council for their advanced technology and superior stealth capabilities. His gray skin reflected the blue light of the ship's instruments, and his tall, thin frame swayed slightly as he moved closer to examine the readings. "Commander, we are detecting unusual energy signatures ahead," reported Cravel, a younger officer who had joined the scout fleet only 3 cycles ago. His voice carried a hint of excitement that made Zixter's mandibles click in mild disapproval. Young officers were always too eager. "Display the readings," Zixter ordered, his voice calm and measured. He had learned long ago that panic served no purpose in deep space. Whatever waited ahead, they would observe it, catalog it, and report it to the Council. That was the Velnathi way. The holographic display shifted, showing a cluster of energy readings approximately 2 million kilometers ahead. Zixter studied the patterns carefully. The signatures were strange, unlike anything in the Galactic Council's extensive database. They pulsed with irregular rhythms, sometimes strong, sometimes weak, as if whatever was generating them was still learning how to control its own power. "What sector are we in?" Zixter asked. "Sector 7 Gamma, Commander. Edge of Council territory. Beyond this point, our maps show only theoretical data," Cravel replied. "According to our records, the nearest civilization is a primitive species called humans. They inhabit a small yellow star system approximately 40 light-years from our current position." Zixter's middle eye narrowed. He remembered reading about humans in the intelligence briefings. The reports were old, compiled nearly 200 cycles ago when a Council probe had passed through their system. At that time, humans had barely achieved basic spaceflight. They were launching crude chemical rockets and had yet to leave their planet's orbit. The Council had classified them as a Level 2 civilization, expected to take at least 500 cycles before achieving faster-than-light travel. "Are you suggesting these energy signatures belong to the humans?" Zixter asked, his tone skeptical. "The location matches their territory, Commander, but the readings suggest technology far beyond what they should possess." Cravel hesitated before adding, "Perhaps another species has moved into the area." That made more sense. The galaxy was vast and new species were discovered regularly. Still, protocol demanded investigation. Zixter turned to his communications officer, Silrex, a veteran whose silver skin showed the scars of many years in service. "Alert the rest of the fleet. We will approach with full stealth engaged. Maintain formation Delta 7. If this is an unknown species, we must gather all possible intelligence before making contact." 6 Velnathi scout ships moved in perfect synchronization. Their sleek forms were nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. Velnathi stealth technology was the finest in the galaxy, capable of bending light and dampening energy emissions to the point where even advanced sensors could barely detect them. Zixter felt pride swell in his chest. Whatever species lay ahead, they would never know the Velnathi were watching. As they drew closer, the sensor readings became clearer and more disturbing. The energy signatures resolved into distinct contacts. "Many distinct contacts, Commander," Cravel said, his voice now strained. "I am counting 47 vessels ahead. Repeat, 47 vessels." The number hung in the air like a physical weight. Zixter felt his breathing quicken. Even the mighty Velnathi rarely assembled fleets larger than 30 ships except during times of war. "Give me visual," Zixter commanded. The holographic display shifted again, and Zixter found himself staring at something that defied his expectations. The ships ahead were massive, easily twice the size of standard Council vessels. Their designs were angular and aggressive, with none of the smooth, organic curves favored by most spacefaring species. They looked like weapons, pure and simple, built with only one purpose in mind. But what truly caught Zixter's attention was their formation. The ships were arranged in a pattern he had never seen before. They formed overlapping layers with smaller vessels positioned to provide coverage for larger ones. Every angle seemed protected, every approach covered by multiple weapon systems. It was a defensive formation, but one that could transition to offense in moments. Analysis, Zixter demanded. Silrex worked quickly, his three-fingered hands dancing across the control interface. The vessels appear to be of uniform design, suggesting a single species origin. Hull composition is unusual, appears to be layered metals with ceramic plating. Energy signatures indicate fusion reactors, but the output levels are far higher than theoretical models suggest possible. Weapon systems are extensive. I am detecting missile batteries, energy weapons, and several systems I cannot identify. Zixter felt a cold sensation spreading through his body. This was no primitive civilization. This was a military force that could challenge even the Council's most powerful fleets. Could they be human vessels? Cravel asked quietly. Impossible, Zixter replied automatically. But even as he said it, doubt crept into his mind. Initiate deep scan. I want to know everything about those ships. Markings, communication frequencies, crew composition, everything. Data began flooding in, and with each new piece of information, Zixter's unease grew. The ships bore markings in an unfamiliar language, but the computer quickly matched the symbols to the linguistic database. They were human letters spelling out names like Indomitable Spirit, Unconquered, Eternal Vigilance, and Last Stand. Each name seemed chosen to send a message, a declaration of intent. Commander, I am detecting crew signatures, Silrex reported. Biological scans show oxygen-breathing life forms consistent with human physiology. Commander, these are human ships. Silence fell over the bridge. Every officer stared at the display, trying to comprehend what they were seeing. In 200 cycles, humans had gone from barely leaving their planet to building a fleet that could threaten the galactic order itself. How is this possible? Cravel whispered. Zixter did not answer. He was too busy thinking through the implications. If humans had advanced this quickly, what else could they do? What other surprises might they have waiting? And most importantly, why had they built such a massive military fleet? Open a channel to Council headquarters, Zixter commanded. Priority Alpha. We need to report this immediately. The communication system activated, establishing a faster-than-light link across thousands of light years. Within moments, Zixter found himself speaking to High Counselor Vexer, one of the oldest and most respected members of the Galactic Council. Commander Zixter, this had better be important. Vexer's image appeared in holographic form, his ancient features creased with irritation. The darkness of space stretched endlessly in all directions, dotted with distant stars that flickered like tiny diamonds against black velvet. Scout Commander Zixter stood on the bridge of his vessel. His three eyes focused on the holographic display before him. The display showed nothing unusual at first, just the empty void that separated the known galaxy from the unexplored territories beyond. Zixter had been a scout commander for 20 cycles now. He belonged to the Velnathi, a proud species known throughout the Galactic Council for their advanced technology and superior stealth capabilities. His gray skin reflected the blue light of the ship's instruments, and his tall, thin frame swayed slightly as he moved closer to examine the readings. Commander, we are detecting unusual energy signatures ahead, reported Cravel, a younger officer who had joined the scout fleet only 3 cycles ago. His voice carried a hint of excitement that made Zixter's mandibles click in mild disapproval. Young officers were always too eager. Display the readings, Zixter ordered, his voice calm and measured. He had learned long ago that panic served no purpose in deep space. Whatever waited ahead, they would observe it, catalog it, and report it to the Council. That was the Velnathi way. The holographic display shifted, showing a cluster of energy readings approximately 2 million kilometers ahead. Zixter studied the patterns carefully. The signatures were strange, unlike anything in the Galactic Council's extensive database. They pulsed with irregular rhythms, sometimes strong, sometimes weak, as if whatever was generating them was still learning how to control its own power. What sector are we in? Zixter asked. Sector 7 Gamma, Commander. Edge of Council territory. Beyond this point, our maps show only theoretical data, Cravel replied. According to our records, the nearest civilization is a primitive species called humans. They inhabit a small yellow star system approximately 40 light-years from our current position. Zixter's middle eye narrowed. He remembered reading about humans in the intelligence briefings. The reports were old, compiled nearly 200 cycles ago when a council probe had passed through their system. At that time, humans had barely achieved basic spaceflight. They were launching crude chemical rockets and had yet to leave their planet's orbit. The Council had classified them as a Level 2 civilization, expected to take at least 500 cycles before achieving faster-than-light travel. Are you suggesting these energy signatures belong to the humans? Zixter asked, his tone skeptical. The location matches their territory, Commander, but the readings suggest technology far beyond what they should possess. Cravel hesitated before adding, perhaps another species has moved into the area. That made more sense. The galaxy was vast and new species were discovered regularly. Still, protocol demanded investigation. Zixter turned to his communications officer, Silrex, a veteran whose silver skin showed the scars of many years in service. Alert the rest of the fleet. We will approach with full stealth engaged. Maintain formation Delta 7. If this is an unknown species, we must gather all possible intelligence before making contact. 6 Velnathi scout ships moved in perfect synchronization. Their sleek forms were nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. Velnathi stealth technology was the finest in the galaxy, capable of bending light and dampening energy emissions to the point where even advanced sensors could barely detect them. Zixter felt pride swell in his chest. Whatever species lay ahead, they would never know the Velnathi were watching. As they drew closer, the sensor readings became clearer and more disturbing. The energy signatures resolved into distinct contacts. Many distinct contacts, Commander, Cravel said, his voice now strained. I am counting 47 vessels ahead. Repeat, 47 vessels. The number hung in the air like a physical weight. Zixter felt his breathing quicken. Even the mighty Velnathi rarely assembled fleets larger than 30 ships except during times of war. Give me visual, Zixter commanded. The holographic display shifted again, and Zixter found himself staring at something that defied his expectations. The ships ahead were massive, easily twice the size of standard council vessels. Their designs were angular and aggressive, with none of the smooth, organic curves favored by most spacefaring species. They looked like weapons, pure and simple, built with only one purpose in mind. But what truly caught Zixter's attention was their formation. The ships were arranged in a pattern he had never seen before. They formed overlapping layers with smaller vessels positioned to provide coverage for larger ones. Every angle seemed protected, every approach covered by multiple weapon systems. It was a defensive formation, but one that could transition to offense in moments. Analysis, Zixter demanded. Silrex worked quickly, his 3-fingered hands dancing across the control interface. The vessels appear to be of uniform design, suggesting a single species origin. Hull composition is unusual, appears to be layered metals with ceramic plating. Energy signatures indicate fusion reactors, but the output levels are far higher than theoretical models suggest possible. Weapon systems are extensive. I am detecting missile batteries, energy weapons, and several systems I cannot identify. Zixter felt a cold sensation spreading through his body. This was no primitive civilization. This was a military force that could challenge even the Council's most powerful fleets. Could they be human vessels? Cravel asked quietly. Impossible, Zixter replied automatically. But even as he said it, doubt crept into his mind. Initiate deep scan. I want to know everything about those ships. Markings, communication frequencies, crew composition, everything. Data began flooding in, and with each new piece of information, Zixter's unease grew. The ships bore markings in an unfamiliar language, but the computer quickly matched the symbols to the linguistic database. They were human letters spelling out names like Indomitable Spirit, Unconquered, Eternal Vigilance, and Last Stand. Each name seemed chosen to send a message, a declaration of intent. Commander, I am detecting crew signatures, Silrex reported. Biological scans show oxygen-breathing lifeforms consistent with human physiology. Commander, these are human ships. Silence fell over the bridge. Every officer stared at the display, trying to comprehend what they were seeing. In 200 cycles, humans had gone from barely leaving their planet to building a fleet that could threaten the galactic order itself. How is this possible? Cravel whispered. Zixter did not answer. He was too busy thinking through the implications. If humans had advanced this quickly, what else could they do? What other surprises might they have waiting? And most importantly, why had they built such a massive military fleet? Open a channel to Council Headquarters, Zixter commanded. Priority Alpha. We need to report this immediately. The communication system activated, establishing a faster-than-light link across thousands of light years. Within moments, Zixter found himself speaking to High Counselor Vexer, one of the oldest and most respected members of the Galactic Council. Commander Zixter, this had better be important. Vexer's image appeared in holographic form, his ancient features creased with irritation. High Counselor, I am transmitting visual data now. We have discovered a human fleet in Sector 7 Gamma. 47 vessels in advanced military configuration. They appear to have achieved technological advancement far beyond our predictions. Vexer's expression changed from irritation to shock as he reviewed the data. For a long moment he said nothing, simply staring at the images of the human fleet. This changes everything, Vexer finally said. Commander, maintain observation position. Do not under any circumstances make contact with the humans. We must assess the level of threat they represent before proceeding. Understood, High Counselor. However, I must report my preliminary assessment based on fleet size and weapons capabilities. I recommend classifying humans as a Category 4 threat. Category 4 was the second highest threat classification in Council terminology. It indicated a species capable of challenging Council military forces and potentially disrupting the galactic balance of power. Only 5 other species in known space held such a classification. Agreed, Vexer said grimly. I am authorizing immediate surveillance protocols. Gather all possible intelligence on human capabilities. The Council will convene an emergency session to discuss this development. Vexer out. The communication link closed, leaving Zixter alone with his thoughts and his fleet. He looked at the human ships again, studying their aggressive lines and powerful weapons. Somewhere inside those vessels were the humans themselves, the species that had surprised the entire galaxy. Should we move closer? Cravel asked. Zixter considered the question carefully. Yes, adjust formation. Bring us to within 50,000 kilometers, but stay alert. If anything seems wrong, we retreat immediately. The scout fleet moved forward, gliding silently through space like predators stalking prey. As they drew closer, more details became visible. The human ships were scarred and worn in places, suggesting they had seen combat or extensive use. Some bore markings that might be kill counts or mission tallies. These were not showpieces built to intimidate. These were working military vessels used and tested. Cravel activated the communication intercept systems, capturing human radio transmissions. The translators struggled briefly with the language before finding patterns and meanings. Commander, I am picking up multiple human communications. They appear to be conducting some sort of training exercise. Training. Zixter leaned forward. Play the transmissions. A human voice filled the bridge, speaking in a language that sounded harsh and clipped to Velnathi ears. The translator provided meaning in real time. Blue Squadron, adjust your formation. You are drifting 30 meters off position. Red Squadron, prepare for simulated missile launch in 30 seconds. New recruits, pay attention to your sensor displays. In real combat, you will not get a second chance. Training exercises. New recruits. The implications hit Zixter like a physical blow. This was not humanity's main fleet. This was not even their veteran forces. This was a training group teaching new members how to operate in space. If this was their training fleet, what did their actual military look like? Transmit all data to Council headquarters immediately, Zixter ordered, his voice tight. Around him, his officers worked in stunned silence, each grappling with the same terrifying realization. They had stumbled upon something far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. Commander, I am detecting something strange in the human engine emissions, Cravel said. There are mathematical patterns I do not recognize. Explain. I cannot, Commander. The patterns do not match any known technology in our database. It is as if the humans are using principles of physics we have not yet discovered. Zixter felt his concern deepen. Advanced military forces were one thing. Unknown physics were something else entirely. What had the humans learned in their rapid advancement? What secrets had they uncovered? Continue monitoring, Zixter ordered. I want every piece of data recorded and analyzed. The next hours passed in intense observation. The Velnathi scouts watched as the human fleet conducted its training exercises with frightening precision. Ships moved in coordinated patterns. Weapons fired in perfect timing. Communications flowed seamlessly. Then, without warning, everything changed. The human fleet suddenly shifted formation. Ships snapped into aggressive configurations. Weapon systems activated simultaneously. They were now facing directly toward the Velnathi scout position. Commander, Silrex whispered, the humans are looking right at us. Impossible, Zixter said, but his voice lacked conviction. Our stealth systems are perfect. Yet the evidence before his eyes suggested otherwise. Then, cutting through the silence of space, came a radio transmission, broken but understandable galactic common. We know you are there. Stand down. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Zixter stood frozen, his three eyes locked on the holographic display where 47 human warships pointed their weapons directly at his invisible fleet. Perhaps they were bluffing, trying to scare off potential threats with false confidence. The human fleet maintained its aggressive formation, weapons tracking the Velnathi position with disturbing accuracy. Minutes passed in intense silence. The Velnathi sensors continued their work, capturing every detail of the human vessels. Cravel pulled up additional data from the communication intercepts. Commander, I'm picking up internal human transmissions. They appear to be discussing the situation. Play them, Zixter ordered. The translator worked quickly, converting human speech into understandable meaning. Multiple voices filled the bridge, overlapping slightly as different crew members communicated. Contacts are maintaining position. 6 vessels, estimated frigate class based on energy signatures. Stealth capabilities confirmed. Visual and standard sensor detection is negative, but quantum wake signatures are clear as day. Should we send another message, Captain? Negative. We gave them a chance to identify themselves. If they want to play hide and seek, we will show them we can see them just fine. Training Squadron Alpha. Maintain weapons lock. Do not fire unless fired upon. Remember, these might be friendlies who do not know we can detect them. The transmissions continued, and with each word, Zixter felt his certainty crumble further. The humans were not bluffing. They genuinely could detect the Velnathi ships despite the stealth systems. More than that, they seemed almost casual about it, as if detecting invisible vessels was routine. But what truly terrified Zixter was the phrase, Training Squadron Alpha. Once again, the humans confirmed this was merely a training fleet. Somewhere in human space, there were more ships, better ships, crewed by experienced warriors rather than recruits. Commander Krell spoke up, his voice carrying a new note of concern. I have completed analysis of those strange energy patterns. I do not think you will like what I have found. Report, Zixter said, though part of him did not want to hear it. Krell pulled up a complex mathematical display. The patterns in the human engine emissions are not natural fluctuations. They are deliberately generated quantum interference fields. The mathematics behind them are sophisticated beyond anything I have seen. Commander, I believe the humans are generating these fields intentionally. For what purpose? Zixter asked, cold dread forming in his stomach. I am not certain, Cravel admitted. But the fields interact with standard subspace sensors in unusual ways. It is possible the humans use them for navigation or communication, or what? Or they could be using them as weapons, Commander. Quantum interference can disrupt electronic systems if applied correctly. If the humans have learned to weaponize quantum mechanics. He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Zixter turned back to the display showing the human fleet. Suddenly, those aggressive formations seemed far more threatening. If humans could weaponize quantum interference, they could potentially disrupt Velnathi technology directly. Shields, weapons, even life support systems relied on electronic control. If those systems collapsed, Silrex, confirm Cravel's analysis. The communications officer worked in silence for several seconds. Confirmed, Commander. The quantum patterns are too complex to be natural. They are generated by the human engines, but I believe that is not their primary purpose. The engines provide power. The actual generation system is separate. So humans have quantum weapons, Zixter said quietly. Possibly, Commander. I cannot be certain, but the capability is there. Zixter made a decision he would later regret. Move us closer. I want detailed scans of those quantum generation systems. If we can understand them, we can develop countermeasures. It was curiosity, the same trait that had driven the Velnathi to explore the stars and catalog civilizations. But also the same curiosity that had destroyed those who pushed too far. The 6 scout ships glided closer, moving from 50,000 kilometers to 30,000, then 20,000. All the while, sensors worked at maximum capacity. The human fleet did not react. Weapons remained locked, but silent. It was as if they were waiting. Cravel continued analyzing the quantum patterns. Commander, I think I understand part of it. The humans are using quantum entanglement in ways we never considered. They are actively manipulating quantum states. This could explain how they detected us. Can we block it? Not with current technology. We would need a complete redesign of our stealth systems. Silrex interrupted. Commander, the humans are discussing us again. More human voices filled the bridge. Unknown contacts have moved closer. Now within 20,000 kilometers. Acknowledged. Maintain weapons lock, but do not engage. Let them get curious. Should we activate the quantum suppression field? Not yet. I want to see how long it takes them to understand what they're looking at. Admiral Okoye wants authorization to escalate. Tell the Admiral we are following first contact protocol exactly. We warned them once. If they stay, that is their choice. The transmission ended. Zixter felt ice form in his veins. Quantum suppression field. The humans had not only discovered quantum interference, they had weaponized it and built systems around it. And they were choosing not to use it. Worse, they spoke of first contact protocols. That meant preparation, planning, expectation. Commander, we should retreat, Cravel said urgently. This is beyond mission parameters. For the first time, Zixter agreed. Helm, prepare faster than light jump. All ships, retreat formation. But before the order could complete, something changed. A faint fluctuation rippled through space. A quantum pulse, small, almost harmless. It washed over the Velnathi fleet. Then everything failed. Alarms erupted across the bridge. Systems collapsed one after another. Navigation went dark. Weapons failed. The faster-than-light drive refused activation. What is happening? Zixter shouted. The quantum pulse. Cravel's hands shook. It is disrupting everything at a fundamental level. All systems are cascading. Life support flickered. Lights dimmed. The ship itself began to die. Emergency lights flickered on as the main power system shut down one by one. Through the viewports, Zixter could see the other 5 ships in his fleet drifting helplessly, their running lights dimming as power failed. 6 proud Velnathi scout ships equipped with the finest technology the Galactic Council could provide were reduced to helpless debris by a single pulse of energy from the humans. Silrex managed to restore partial power to the communication system and captured one final human transmission. A male voice, deep and calm, speaking in perfect galactic common. "Attention Velnathi vessels. This is Admiral James Uwe of the United Earth Defense Force. Your ships have been disabled by non-lethal quantum suppression. You are in no immediate danger, but you are no longer capable of faster-than-light travel or offensive action. We are dispatching recovery teams to stabilize your life support and provide assistance. Do not resist, and no harm will come to you. This is your only warning." The transmission ended on the holographic display, which flickered and died even as Zixer watched. He could see human ships beginning to move toward the disabled Velnathi fleet. Cravel looked at his commander with all three eyes wide with fear. "What have we encountered, Commander? What are the humans?" Zixer had no answer. He had led his scouts into human space expecting to observe a primitive species taking its first steps into the galaxy. Instead, he had found something far more dangerous. A species that had learned to wage war at the quantum level, capable of collapsing the technology of species far older and supposedly wiser than themselves. He realized with growing horror that they had prepared for this exact moment. The humans had known someone would come eventually. They had prepared countermeasures and protocols. They had turned their entire civilization into a weapon pointed at the stars, waiting for the rest of the galaxy to arrive. And now that galaxy was coming to meet them whether it wanted to or not. The emergency lighting cast strange shadows across the Velnathi bridge as systems continued their catastrophic failure. Zixer gripped the edge of his console, watching helplessly as centuries of technological advancement collapsed around him. The ship groaned, metal contracting in the cold as environmental systems struggled to maintain temperature. Creel worked desperately at his failing station, trying to understand what had happened. His three eyes darted between displays flickering between data and static. "Commander, I'm trying to route power through backup systems, but every attempt fails. It is as if the quantum pulse rewrote the fundamental operating parameters of our technology." "Explain that in simpler terms," Zixer demanded, his breath now visible in the cooling air. "The humans did not just disrupt our systems, Commander. They changed them. Every circuit, every computer core, every quantum processor is now operating on principles that contradict its designed function. It is like trying to make water flow upward or heat flow from cold to hot. The laws of physics have not changed, but our technology no longer understands how to work within them." Silrex managed to restore partial communication capability and immediately checked on the other ships in the fleet. "Commander, all 6 vessels report the same cascade failure. Ship 3 reports life support is down to 30% capacity. Ship 5 has lost artificial gravity entirely. We have maybe 6 hours before conditions become critical." "6 hours," Zixer repeated. He felt the weight of that timeline settle on his shoulders. 6 hours before his crew would begin dying from cold and oxygen deprivation. 6 hours to figure out how to fix technology that humans had somehow broken at the most fundamental level. Through the viewport, he could see the human fleet moving. 3 ships detached from the main formation and approached the disabled Velnathi vessels. They moved with purpose and precision, closing the distance rapidly. "They are coming," Zixer announced. Every member of his crew could see the human ships growing larger in the viewports. "What do we do, Commander?" Cravel asked, fear clear in his voice. What could we do? They thought. Their weapons were offline. Their shields were down. Their faster-than-light drive was completely non-functional. They could not fight, could not flee, could barely survive. They were at the humans' mercy. "We wait," Zixer said quietly, "and we hope the humans are more civilized than their weapons suggest." The lead human vessel approached Zixer's flagship first. It was smaller than the massive carriers in the main fleet, but still twice the size of the Velnathi scout ship. Its hull was dark gray, marked with scars from countless battles or training exercises. The name Indomitable Spirit was written in large white letters across its bow. Sections of the human ship opened, revealing docking mechanisms and boarding tubes. It maneuvered with surprising delicacy, bringing itself alongside the Velnathi scout until the two ships were barely 10 meters apart. "They are preparing to board us," Silrex reported, voice tight with anxiety. "Can we seal the airlocks?" Zixer asked. Cravel checked and shook his head. "Airlock controls are offline, Commander. We cannot seal them, but we also cannot open them. We are locked in our current configuration." The problem solved itself moments later with loud clangs echoing through the hull. Magnetic clamps attached to the exterior. Then came a different sound, high-pitched and harsh, the screaming of metal being cut. "They are cutting through the hull," Silrex said unnecessarily. Zixer made a decision. "All crew stand away from the airlock. Do not resist the humans. We are not equipped to fight them, and any resistance will only endanger the crew. Record everything. If we survive this, the Council must know exactly what happened here." The cutting continued for several minutes, then stopped. A heavy thud followed as a circular section of hull was removed. Emergency force fields should have activated, but those systems were dead. A rush of air escaped before the humans sealed the breach. Through the opening came the humans, and Zixer saw them clearly for the first time. Shorter than Velnathi, bulkier, moving with heavy grace. Each wore powered armor, dark gray with red and white markings, bristling with tools and weapons. Their visors reflected emergency lights coldly. 6 entered the bridge with military precision. Weapons were held low, not aimed at the crew. The lead human spoke. A translation device rendered it into Galactic Common. "I am Lieutenant Sarah Chun of the United Earth Defense Force frigate Indomitable Spirit. We are here to provide emergency life support and medical assistance. Are any of your crew injured?" Zixer was surprised. He expected threats. Instead, help. "No injuries," he said. "But our life support is failing. We have perhaps 6 hours." Chin nodded and turned to her team. "Deploy emergency life support modules. Connect to environmental systems if possible. If not, set up independent units." The soldiers moved immediately, deploying equipment far too advanced to come from such compact packs. They worked with efficient professionalism, asking permission before touching Velnathi equipment but not waiting long for answers. Within minutes, they had connected portable life support generators to the ship's failing systems. Zixer felt warmth returning to the air as the human generators pumped heat and fresh oxygen into the ship. Around him, his crew began breathing easier, both literally and figuratively. "Thank you," Zixer said, and meant it. Whatever else the humans were, they were not monsters who would let stranded aliens die in the cold of space. Chen's helmet retracted in a complex mechanical motion, revealing her face. She looked young by human standards. Her skin was dark brown, her eyes lighter brown, and her hair pulled back tightly. She studied Zixer with open curiosity. "You are Velnathi," she said. It was not a question. "Yes," Zixer confirmed. "I am Scout Commander Zixer of the Galactic Council Exploration Fleet. How do you know of my species?" A slight smile crossed Chen's face, friendly but faintly amused. "Commander, we have known about the Galactic Council for 15 years. We intercepted your communications, studied your probe transmissions, and prepared for the day we would finally meet you face to face." 15 years. The number hit Zixer like a physical impact. Humans had known about galactic civilization for 15 years and said nothing, revealed nothing. Instead, they had watched, learned, and prepared. "The probe that visited our system 200 cycles ago," Chun continued, "sent its data back to Council space via tight beam transmission. What your people did not know is that we intercepted it. We decoded it, learned your languages, and began monitoring your communications. We have been listening to the galaxy for a very long time, Commander." Cravel stepped forward, voice tense. "That is impossible. Council encryption is unbreakable." Chun turned to him calmly. "It is excellent. It took our best minds 3 years to crack it. But humans are very good at breaking codes. We had to be. Our history is full of wars where intelligence decided survival." She looked back at Zixer. "My captain would like to speak with you. Will you come aboard the Indomitable Spirit? You will be treated as guests, not prisoners." Zixer considered refusing, then dismissed the thought. His ship was dead. His crew depended on human life support. I will come, he said. But my crew remains safe. They will be, Chen replied. We are providing life support to all 6 ships. Medical teams are already en route. Once your people are stable, we will decide what happens next. Zixer gestured to Cravel and Silrex. You two come with me. The rest cooperate with the humans. Chun led them through the makeshift boarding tube into the human ship. The corridor was wide, utilitarian, marked with colored safety lines and exposed maintenance systems. Everything was built for function over elegance. Human crew members paused to stare at the Velnathi, curiosity replacing fear. None showed hostility. They reached the bridge. It was larger than any Velnathi command deck, organized in step stations facing a wide viewport showing the crippled fleet and human ships in support positions. At the center stood a woman radiating authority. She wore a dark uniform with rank markings, her hair rust-colored, eyes sharp green. Commander Zixer, she said in perfect galactic common. I am Captain Sarah Chun of the Indomitable Spirit. Welcome aboard. Zixer hesitated. I am honored, Captain Chun, though I wish we had met under better circumstances. These circumstances are of your choosing, she replied evenly. You entered human space without authorization, used stealth systems, and continued after detection. What did you expect? Zixer had no answer. After a pause, her tone softened slightly. You were following orders. That is why you are here as a guest, not a prisoner. Sit. We have much to discuss. They sat in chairs designed for Velnathi physiology. A holographic display activated between them, showing a star map divided between council space and human territory. This is human space, the captain said. 47 star systems, colonized in 12 years, 32 billion people. And this is the United Earth Defense Force, 470 ships, 20,000 fighters, armed stations across all territories. The scale was staggering. How? Cravel whispered. How did you advance so quickly? Because we had to, the captain said quietly. She brought up images of human history, war, destruction, burning cities, collapsing civilizations. This is what humans do when we fight. We nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. So when we learned we were not alone, we had 2 choices: trust the unknown or prepare for the worst. She closed the images and opened technical schematics instead. We chose preparation. We studied your technology, improved it, and pushed beyond it. Fusion systems, shielding, quantum research. Her gaze hardened slightly. And then we built the quantum suppression system you just experienced. Zixer said, yes. The captain confirmed. It took us 8 years to develop and another 4 to perfect. It works by inducing controlled quantum decoherence in electronic systems. We can collapse the wave functions that your technology relies on, forcing everything into states that prevent normal operation. The best part is that it is non-lethal. We disable ships without killing crews. We remove threats without creating martyrs. Silrex spoke up for the first time. You weaponized physics itself. We weaponized understanding, the captain corrected. And that is humanity's greatest strength, Commander Zixer. We learn, we adapt, we take what exists and make it better. You thought you were observing primitives who had just learned to leave their planet. Instead, you found a species that had been preparing for 15 years for exactly this moment. She stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the disabled Velnathi ships. Your people will be released unharmed once we complete this conversation. Your ships will be repaired using our technology, which means you will take knowledge of our capabilities back to the Council. That is intentional. We want the Council to know what we can do. We want them to understand that humanity is not prey to be studied and catalogued. We are equals, whether the Council likes it or not. She turned back to Zixer directly. So here is what happens next. You will return to Council space and deliver a message. Tell them humanity requests formal diplomatic relations. Tell them we are willing to share technology and knowledge in exchange for being treated as equals. Tell them we seek peace but are prepared for war. And tell them that this fleet you encountered, this force that so easily disabled your scouts, is just our training squadron. Our actual military is far more capable." The words hung in the cold bridge air. Zixer understood he was being given a choice, or rather the council was. "I will deliver your message," Zixer said quietly. "But I cannot predict how the council will respond." "Neither can we," the captain admitted. "But we have made our position clear. The rest is up to your people." Outside the viewport, human engineering teams were already working on the Velnathi ships, beginning the long process of repairs. Zixer watched them and wondered what he had unleashed by bringing his fleet into human space. He had come seeking a primitive species. Instead, he had found humanity, and nothing would ever be the same. 3 hours had passed since the boarding teams secured the Velnathi fleet. Zixer sat in an observation lounge aboard the Indomitable Spirit, watching human engineers work on his disabled flagship. The lounge was comfortable, adjusted for Velnathi physiology. The humans were being excellent hosts, which somehow made Zixer more uneasy than hostility would have. Cravel sat nearby, studying a datapad provided by the humans. It displayed detailed information about the quantum suppression weapon. "Commander," Cravel said quietly, "the mathematics are elegant but terrifying. They do not disrupt systems randomly. They can target specific systems while leaving others functional. That is why our life support failed gradually rather than catastrophically. They chose exactly what to disable." "Precision," Zixer mused. "More than that," Cravel replied. "They can choose exactly which functions to remove. Weapons, engines, life support, communication, individually or selectively. It is total control without destruction." Silrex joined them. This technology was originally a safety system. It was designed to shut down reactors during failures. Only later did they realize it could be used as a weapon. Zixer found that revealing. A weapon born from safety, protection and destruction using the same principle. The door opened and Captain Chun entered, followed by a man who immediately commanded attention. "Commander Zixer," Chun said formally. "May I introduce Admiral James Okoye, commander of the 3rd Human Defense Fleet." Zixer rose and bowed respectfully. "Commander Zixer," the admiral said, returning the gesture. "I apologize for the circumstances of our meeting. We needed to make our capabilities clear." "How did humans advance so quickly?" Zixer asked. "No council species has progressed at this speed." Okoye exhaled slowly. "Because we were terrified." A hologram appeared between them, showing Earth. "When we intercepted that probe 15 years ago, humanity realized something simple. We were not alone and we were not the strongest. Every human culture has stories about what happens to the weak when they meet the strong. We decided not to be the weak." The display shifted to massive construction efforts, fleets being built, entire industries mobilized. "We unified every government, every corporation, every scientist. We built everything as fast as possible. And we succeeded because we had one advantage." "What advantage?" Cravel asked. Okoye's expression darkened. "We had already spent our entire history fighting ourselves." The hologram shifted to images of human wars, destruction, and cities reduced to ash. "This is what we are," Okoye said quietly. "A species that learned survival through conflict. Every generation pushed us to build better tools, faster systems, stronger defenses. When we turned outward, we already knew how to move quickly." Silrex spoke softly. "You used conflict as development." "Yes," Okoye said. "Not a kind method, not a safe one, but an effective one." The hologram shifted again, showing advanced fusion systems and modified council-derived designs. "We did not copy your technology," Okoye continued. "We rebuilt it, improved it, questioned it, and then we asked why it worked at all. What were the limiting factors? What assumptions did the designers make? And then we asked whether those assumptions were necessary or just habitual. We found dozens of small improvements, and when combined, those improvements resulted in reactors that produce 30% more power while being 20% smaller. Cal was staring at the schematics with something like hunger in his 3 eyes. That should not be possible. The Council's best engineers have optimized those designs over hundreds of cycles. Your engineers optimized them within certain assumptions, Okoya corrected gently. We came at the problem with fresh eyes and no preconceptions about what was or was not possible. Sometimes ignorance is an advantage, Commander. We did not know what was impossible, so we tried everything. He stood and walked to the viewport looking out at the assembled fleets. The quantum suppression weapon is the best example. Council scientists discovered quantum mechanics and developed some practical applications, but they treated it cautiously, carefully, the way you treat something precious and fragile. We treated it like every other tool in human history. We asked how to make it stronger, faster, more effective. We pushed it to its limits and beyond. And we discovered that quantum mechanics is not fragile at all. It is the foundation of reality, and once you truly understand it, you can do remarkable things. Zixth found himself fascinated despite his fear. But surely such rapid advancement came at a cost. No species can progress that quickly without making mistakes. Oh, we made mistakes, Okoya agreed with a bitter laugh. Catastrophic mistakes. 3 ships were lost during early faster-than-light testing. A research station was destroyed when an experimental reactor failed. 2 colonies were evacuated when terraforming experiments went wrong. We lost 15,000 people in those 15 years of rapid development. The hologram displayed a memorial wall, thousands of human names inscribed in light. Each name, Zixter realized, represented someone who had died in humanity's desperate rush to reach the stars. We paid for our advancement in blood and lives, Okoya said softly. But we paid willingly because we believed the alternative was worse. Better to risk everything reaching for equality than to wait passively for first contact and hope the Council was kind. We gambled that we could become strong enough to be respected rather than pitted or exploited. Captain Chun spoke up for the first time since the Admiral had begun his explanation. What the Admiral is trying to explain, Commander, is that humans are not like other species you have encountered. We do not accept our place in the natural order. We do not wait patiently for the universe to offer us opportunities. We take what we need and we make our own opportunities. That is both our greatest strength and our greatest flaw. Silrex asked the question that Zixter had been thinking. Are you saying humans are naturally aggressive? Naturally violent? Okoya considered the question carefully before answering. Not naturally violent, no. But naturally competitive, yes. Naturally driven to improve and advance, absolutely. Violence is simply one tool humans use when competing. Though we have learned over time that cooperation is often more effective. But that competitive drive, that refusal to accept limitations, that is fundamental to who we are. The hologram shifted to show scenes of human achievement. Cities that touch the clouds, machines that explore distant planets, art and music, and literature of stunning beauty. We compete to build the tallest buildings. We compete to create the most beautiful art. We compete to answer the deepest questions about the universe. Competition drives us to be better, to reach further, to accomplish more. It just so happens that competition and warfare taught us lessons that transferred to competition in science and engineering. Creel was furiously taking notes on his datapad. Admiral, may I ask a theoretical question? If humans had developed alone without knowledge of the Galactic Council, how long would it have taken you to achieve your current level of technology? Koya smiled. Good question. Our projection suggested we would have achieved basic faster than light travel within 30 to 50 years. Full colonization of nearby systems within a century. The quantum suppression weapon might have taken 2 centuries, or we might never have developed it at all since we would not have known it was possible. But knowledge of the Council gave us a goal and a deadline. We compressed a century of development into 15 years. At great cost, Zixter observed. Yes, Okoya agreed. But we considered it worthwhile. Commander, let me be completely honest with you. We knew that eventually the Council would come. We knew that our probe's transmission had been detected somewhere. We had to be ready when that day came, and we had to be ready in a way that would make the Council think twice about treating us as primitives or test subjects. He turned away from the viewport to face Zixter directly. That is why we did not destroy your ships, Commander. We could have. Our weapons are more than capable, but destruction would have sent the wrong message. It would have said humans are violent, unpredictable, dangerous. We did not want that message. What message did you want to send? Zixter asked. That humans are capable, prepared, and peaceful unless provoked. That we can be allies worth having or enemies worth avoiding, and the Council gets to choose which. We disabled your ships to demonstrate capability, but we are repairing them to demonstrate intent. We do not want war, Commander. We want respect. The hologram shifted one final time, showing what appeared to be a treaty document written in both human languages and Galactic Common. We have prepared a proposal for formal diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council. It includes technology sharing, trade agreements, and mutual defense pacts. We are offering to join the galactic community as equals, bringing all our capability and innovation to benefit everyone. And if the Council refuses, Silrex asked quietly, Okoya's expression hardened. Then we will remain independent. We will defend our territory and continue developing on our own. We will not seek conflict, but we will not back down from it either. The days of humanity being weak and vulnerable are over. Commander, we decide our own fate now. Zixt felt the weight of the message he would have to carry back to Council space. The galaxy had changed in ways the Council could not have predicted. A new player had entered the game, one that did not follow the usual rules of development and integration. Admiral Zixter said carefully, the Council will not like being presented with an ultimatum. They are accustomed to controlling the pace and nature of first contact. I understand, Okoya replied. But Commander, the Council lost the privilege of controlling this first contact when they sent a probe to spy on us 200 years ago without introducing themselves. They chose to watch us from the shadows. We simply chose to watch back and prepare for the day they revealed themselves. Now both sides know the truth and we move forward as equals or we move forward separately. Those are the only options. He offered his hand to Zixter, a human gesture of agreement and respect that the Commander had learned about during his brief time aboard. Zixter reached out with his three-fingered hand and grasped the human's five-fingered one. The grip was firm but not threatening. A promise of potential friendship wrapped in a demonstration of strength. Your ships will be repaired within 12 hours, Okoya said. We will restore full functionality using our override codes. You will then be free to return to Council space with our message and our proposal. I hope the Council chooses wisely, Commander. Humanity could be the Council's greatest ally. We would prefer not to be their greatest problem. Zixter nodded slowly. I will deliver your message exactly as you have given it, Admiral. What the Council does with that message is beyond my control. But I will tell them what I have seen here. I will tell them that humanity is not what we expected. And I will tell them that the galaxy is about to become far more interesting than it has been for a very long time. Okoya's smile was genuine. That is all we can ask, Commander. Welcome to the new era of galactic politics. I suspect both our peoples are about to learn a great deal about each other. Zixt stood on the bridge of his restored flagship, running his three-fingered hands over control surfaces that responded perfectly to his touch. 12 hours ago, these same systems had been completely dead, reduced to expensive debris by human quantum weapons. Now they functioned as if nothing had happened. Every circuit restored, every processor operating at full capacity. The humans had been true to their word. Engineering teams had worked through the night, not only repairing the Velnathi systems but improving them. Zixt had watched in amazement as human technicians identified inefficiencies in the power distribution network and corrected them. The fusion reactor now operated at higher efficiency than when it was brand new. The navigation systems responded faster. Even life support ran more smoothly. It was a demonstration wrapped in an act of kindness. The humans were showing that they could have destroyed the Velnathi ships permanently if they had chosen to. Instead, they had made them better than before. Commander, all systems are showing optimal function, Cravel reported from his station. The young officer had barely slept, spending every moment studying the human modifications and trying to understand how they had accomplished so much so quickly. The humans left detailed documentation on every change they made. It is written in both our language and theirs. They want us to understand what they did and why. More demonstrations, Silrex observed. They show us they can break our technology, fix it, and improve it. They want the Council to understand the full scope of their capabilities. Zixt nodded slowly. The humans were master communicators. Every action carried multiple messages. The quantum suppression attack had said they could defeat them. The life support assistants had said they did not wish to. The repairs and improvements said they preferred cooperation to conflict. And now, by allowing the Velnathi to leave freely, the humans were saying they were confident enough to let them report everything they had seen. Commander Cravel called out, "Admiral Okoya is requesting permission to come aboard." That was unexpected. Zixt had assumed the humans would simply let them leave without further ceremony. Permission granted. Have him directed to the bridge. Admiral Okoya arrived minutes later, accompanied only by Captain Chan and 2 security personnel who remained at the airlock. The Admiral wore full-dress uniform, moving with calm confidence. Commander Zixt, Okoya greeted formally. "I wanted to speak with you one final time before you depart for Council space. There are things that need to be said away from my ships and my crew." Zixt felt concern rising. What could the Admiral want to discuss in private? "Of course, Admiral. We can speak in my ready room." The space was small by human standards but comfortable for Velnathi. Zixt gestured for them to sit. "Commander," Okoya began without preamble, "I need you to understand the strategic situation fully before you leave. What I'm about to tell you is not a threat. It is simply the truth, and the Council needs to hear it." He activated a holographic map of the galaxy. Red markers appeared across it, scattered through Council space and beyond. These are human defensive platforms. We have spent the last years placing them throughout the galaxy. They are small, stealth-protected, and equipped with non-lethal suppression capability. Right now, they are monitoring major Council systems and communication hubs. Zixt felt his blood run cold. "You have placed weapons throughout Council space. That is an act of war." "It is an act of insurance," Okoya corrected calmly. "And they are not weapons in the traditional sense. They cannot destroy ships or kill people. They can only disable electronic systems temporarily. But if your scout fleet had not returned, if the Council had decided to attack human space, those platforms would have activated simultaneously." He highlighted key regions. Communication networks would collapse. Navigation systems would fail. Faster-than-light travel would become impossible. The Council would be unable to coordinate military action against us. It would buy humanity time to negotiate or defend ourselves if necessary. Captain Chun spoke quietly. "We call it the dead man's switch. If contact with human space is lost for a set period, the platforms activate automatically. It ensures we cannot be wiped out in a first strike." Zixt stared at the map in disbelief. It was not just defense. It was strategic paralysis placed deep inside Council civilization. "This is what I needed you to understand," Okoya said. "When you report to the Council, they must know that attacking us is not a viable option. Any military action would result in systemic collapse for weeks or months." "You are forcing negotiation," Zixt said quietly. "We are ensuring fairness," Okoya replied. "Peace only works when both sides understand the cost of conflict. Right now, the Council has more to lose than we do. That creates stability." He closed the display. "But I want to be clear. We do not want to use these systems. They are insurance, not intent. If the Council accepts diplomacy, they remain dormant. Over time, they may be removed entirely. And if the Council refuses?" Zixt asked. "Then humanity remains independent," Okoya said. "We defend ourselves and continue developing. We do not seek conflict, but we will not accept control." Captain Chun leaned forward. "Humanity does not match the Council's expectations. We advance too quickly, too efficiently. They may see that as a threat. That would be a mistake. We are not conquerors. We are survivors who learned early that hesitation costs everything." Zixt sat in silence as the weight of it settled. Humanity had not simply entered the galactic stage. They had rewritten the rules before anyone realized the game had changed. It was masterful strategy executed over 15 years of careful planning. I will tell the Council everything, Zixter finally said. But Admiral, you must understand that the Council is not accustomed to being outmaneuvered. There will be representatives who view this as an insult, who will demand action regardless of the strategic situation. We anticipated that, Okoya acknowledged. That is why our first contact happened with a scout fleet rather than a diplomatic mission. If the Council had sent ambassadors, this situation would be far more difficult politically. But they sent scouts, military observers, and we responded as military forces do. When unidentified ships enter contested space, it keeps things relatively simple from a diplomatic standpoint. He stood, offering his hand again in that human gesture of respect. Commander Zixter, you have conducted yourself with honor throughout this encounter. You protected your crew, accepted a difficult situation with grace, and maintained your dignity even when facing superior force. The Council is fortunate to have officers like you. Zixter grasped the human's hand firmly. And humanity is fortunate to have leaders like you, Admiral. You could have destroyed my fleet but chose mercy. You could have held us prisoner but chose to repair and release us. These choices will be remembered when I make my report. That is my hope, Okoya said with a slight smile. Safe travels, Commander. I expect we will meet again when formal negotiations begin. Until then, may your journey home be swift and peaceful. The Admiral and Captain departed, leaving Zixter alone with his thoughts. He returned to the bridge where his crew waited anxiously for orders. Helm, set course for Council headquarters. Maximum speed. We have a report to deliver that will change the galaxy forever. The 6 Velnathi scout ships activated their faster-than-light drives, systems responding perfectly despite their recent catastrophic failure as they accelerated away from human space. Zixt watched the human fleet grow smaller in his viewports. Those ships remained in formation, watchful and ready, but they made no move to follow or threaten. The humans had made their point and were confident enough to let their message travel on its own. The journey back to Council space took 3 days. During that time, Zixter worked constantly on his report, trying to find words that could adequately explain what had happened. How did one tell the Council that everything they thought they knew about human development was wrong? How did one explain that a species they had dismissed as primitive now held technological and strategic advantage? Cravel assisted with technical documentation, compiling detailed analysis of human technology. The young officer had grown considerably during the mission, his initial excitement tempered by reality but replaced with respect for human capability. Commander Cravel said on the second day, I have been thinking about what we witnessed. The humans said they advanced quickly because they were afraid, but I think there is more. They were curious. Every human we met asked questions, wanted to understand how things worked, refused to accept anything was impossible. That curiosity combined with their competitive nature made them advance faster than any species I have studied. You admire them, Zixter observed. I respect them, Cravel corrected. There is a difference. I do not admire their violence or their risks, but I respect their determination and capability. They became what they needed to survive just as we did. Silrex had spent the journey analyzing human communication and political structure. Commander, I have reviewed all captured transmissions. They have approximately 197 nations on their home world. They argue constantly, yet when they detected the Council probe, they unified almost instantly. Unity born from external threat, Zixt said. Common among developing species, but usually it fractures after the threat passes. That is the interesting part, Commander. Their unity has not fractured. If anything, it has strengthened. They maintain identity and competition internally, but agree on expansion, defense, and respect as core principles. It is unity through shared purpose rather than enforced conformity. The observations gave Zixter clarity for his report. The humans were not simple or predictable. They were complex and adaptive. When the scout fleet finally emerged from faster-than-light travel near Council headquarters, Zixter immediately requested an emergency session with the High Council. His request was granted within hours. Council headquarters orbited a peaceful blue world called Vex Prime, home to the founding species of the Council and bureaucratic center of galactic civilization. Zixth had only been there twice before, and both times for routine briefings. This was different. This was history. He was escorted into the Grand Council chamber, a circular hall where representatives from 47 species gathered in tiered seating. High Counselor Vexner stood at the center. Scout Commander Zixth, you have requested this emergency session to report on your encounter with the human species. The Council is ready. Zixth stepped forward, activated the holographic display, and began his report, detailing everything from first contact to final departure. The chamber remained silent as he spoke, shock spreading through the assembled representatives. When he described the quantum suppression attack and the collapse of Velnothi systems, several species exchanged alarmed looks. When he revealed human surveillance of Council communications and their strategic positioning, the chamber erupted in murmur. Vexner raised a hand. Commander, are you telling us humans have been intercepting Council communications for 15 years, possess technology capable of disabling Council vessels, and have placed systems throughout our space? Yes, High Counselor Zixth confirmed. And I must emphasize, they did not hide this. They wanted it understood. A representative from the Keelry species stood sharply. This is an outrage. A primitive species spying on the Council, placing systems in our territory. This is an act of war. Before Zixth could respond, another representative spoke from the Drake's delegation. The chamber shifted, tension rising as the Council began to realize that what they were hearing was not simply an encounter report. It was a redefinition of galactic power. Representative Keelth, perhaps we should hear the full report before declaring war on a species that has just demonstrated it can disable our entire fleet without firing a shot. The Kalori representative hissed in anger but sat down. Zix's there continued his presentation, explaining the human proposal for diplomatic relations and their strategic positioning. He played recordings of his conversations with Admiral Akoy and Captain Chun, letting the Council hear directly from human voices. When he finished, silence fell over the chamber. For a long moment no one spoke. Then Vexer addressed the Council. Representatives, we face a situation unprecedented in Council history. A species has advanced to technological parity with us in less than 200 cycles. They have done so in secret, preparing for this moment with strategic sophistication that rivals our oldest civilizations. And now they present us with a choice. Accept them as equals or face them as adversaries who have already positioned themselves advantageously. We cannot let this stand, the Kalori representative insisted. If we allow humans to dictate terms, every other species will think they can challenge the Council. We must respond with force to maintain our authority. And how do you propose we do that? Asked the Drake's representative. Commander Zixer has just explained that the humans can disable our ships with quantum weapons and collapse our communications network across the entire Council space. Any military action would be suicide. The debate continued for hours. Representatives argued from dozens of different perspectives. Some wanted immediate military action despite the risks. Others advocated cautious diplomacy. A few suggested isolating human space and refusing all contact. The Council was divided, unable to reach consensus on how to respond to humanity's sudden emergence. Finally, an elderly representative from the Vex species rose to speak. She was Counselor Dexina, one of the oldest and most respected members of the Council, known for her wisdom and long perspective. Representatives, I have served on this Council for 140 cycles, Dexina said, her aged voice still carrying authority. In that time, I have seen the Council welcome 32 new species into our community. Each time, we followed careful protocols designed to guide developing civilizations through the difficult transition to galactic citizenship. But I must point out that those protocols were designed for species that developed at normal rates and discovered us through deliberate contact. She gestured at the holographic display showing human capabilities. The humans are not following our expected pattern, and we must accept that our standard approach will not work with them. They did not discover us through our choice. We revealed ourselves through carelessness 200 cycles ago, then continued to observe them without introduction. We set the tone for this relationship by choosing surveillance over communication. The humans simply responded in kind. Are you suggesting we are at fault here? The Cthori representative demanded. I am suggesting we share responsibility for how this situation developed, Dexina replied calmly. And more importantly, I am suggesting that the humans have presented us with an opportunity disguised as a challenge. They offer technology sharing, trade, and mutual defense. They bring fresh perspectives and rapid innovation. They could revitalize the Council and push us to advance in ways we have not considered. Or they could destabilize everything we have built, another representative countered. Perhaps we need some destabilization, Dexina said quietly. Representatives, I must ask you all honestly. When was the last time the Council truly innovated? When did we last make a significant technological breakthrough or develop a new way of thinking about the galaxy? We have become comfortable, stable, and perhaps too cautious. The humans are offering us a chance to grow again. Her words hung in the chamber, challenging assumptions that had guided the Council for millennia. Vexner spoke up. Councillor Dexina makes valid points, but the question remains. Can we trust the humans? They have demonstrated deception, military capability, and strategic thinking that some might call manipulative. What guarantee do we have that they will honor any agreement? Zixth raised his hand and requested permission to speak. When Vexer nodded, he stepped forward again. High Counselor, during my time with the humans, I observed something important. They kept every promise they made to me. They said they would provide life support, and they did. They said they would repair our ships, and they made them better than before. They said they would release us unharmed, and we left freely with full knowledge of their capabilities. Every action matched their words. More than that, I saw how they treated each other. Human crew members of different ranks, backgrounds, and physical characteristics all work together toward common goals. They debate and disagree constantly, but they respect each other. They are a contentious species, High Counselor, but they are also an honorable one. When they make agreements, they keep them. The Kalori representative objected. Then let us send a proper diplomatic mission, the Dravik representative suggested. Let us meet with human leaders, tour their facilities, and assess their culture directly. We can negotiate terms for formal relations while verifying their intentions. The debate continued, but slowly a consensus began forming. The Council would send a diplomatic mission to human space. They would negotiate from a position of cautious respect rather than assumed superiority, and they would seriously consider the human proposal for partnership. It took 2 more days of discussion, but eventually the Council reached a formal decision. They would accept humanity's request for diplomatic contact. A delegation would be assembled representing all major Council species, and they would travel to human space to begin formal negotiations. Sixther was asked to join the delegation as a military advisor, given his unique experience with human capabilities. He accepted the assignment, feeling both honored and apprehensive about returning to the species that had so thoroughly surprised him. 6 months passed as the diplomatic mission was organized and prepared. During that time, limited communication was established with human authorities. The humans proved cooperative and helpful, providing detailed information about their customs, languages, and expectations for diplomatic protocols. They were, Zixer noted, better prepared for this meeting than the Council was. Finally, the diplomatic fleet departed for human space. 12 ships carrying representatives from every Council species, protected by military escorts that everyone hoped would not be necessary. Zixth stood on the bridge of the lead diplomatic vessel, watching as they approached the coordinates humans had provided for the meeting. What awaited them took his breath away. The humans had constructed a massive space station at the edge of their territory, clearly built specifically for this occasion. It was enormous, easily 3 times the size of standard Council stations, with docking facilities for dozens of ships. The architecture blended human angular aesthetics with softer curves, clearly designed to accommodate non-human visitors. It was a statement of capability and welcome combined into one impressive structure. But what truly caught Zixta's attention was the fleet surrounding the station. Not the 47 training vessels he had encountered months ago, but hundreds of ships, sleek destroyers, massive carriers, powerful battleships, all arranged in formations that were clearly defensive, but also undeniably disciplined. This was humanity's actual military, and it dwarfed what Zixth had seen before. "By the ancestors," Claravel whispered beside him. They were not exaggerating. As the diplomatic vessels approached, a communication came through. The voice was familiar, warm with genuine welcome. "Council Diplomatic Mission. This is Admiral James Uwe of the United Earth Defense Force. On behalf of all humanity, welcome to Unity Station. We have been looking forward to this meeting for a very long time. Please proceed to docking bays 1 through 12. Our diplomatic corps is ready to receive you." The council ships docked without incident, and as Zixth disembarked, he was greeted by an honor guard of human soldiers in dress uniforms. They saluted smartly, a gesture of respect that transcended species barriers. Captain Chun was there to greet him personally, now wearing a diplomatic uniform rather than military gear. "Commander Zixer, welcome back. I hope your journey was pleasant." "It was uneventful," Zixth replied, "which, after our last meeting, I count as pleasant." Chun smiled. "Come. The delegation is gathering in the main conference hall. Today, Commander, we begin writing a new chapter of galactic history together." As Zixth followed her through the station, passing human and council personnel who watched each other with curiosity but not hostility, he reflected on how much had changed in 6 months. The galaxy had been forced to recognize that humanity was not another species to be guided and integrated on the Council's terms. Humanity had claimed its place as an equal, backed by capability and determination that could not be ignored. The age of human isolation was over. The age of humanity as a galactic power had begun. And as Zixth entered the conference hall where diplomats were gathering, he realized the galaxy would never be the same. The humans had ensured that they had prepared, positioned, and presented themselves in a way that demanded respect. Now came the real test. Whether that respect could grow into partnership, whether two very different approaches to civilization could find common ground, and whether the galaxy was ready for everything humanity would bring to it. Looking at the assembled representatives beginning their careful dance of diplomacy, Zixth allowed himself a cautious optimism. It would not be easy. There would be disagreements, cultural misunderstandings, and moments of tension. But both sides were here talking instead of fighting, seeking cooperation instead of conflict. It was, he thought, a better beginning than many first contacts throughout history. And if the humans brought even half the determination to peace that they had brought to preparation for war, the galaxy might just emerge stronger than before. The conference began with formal introductions and carefully prepared statements. But as the day progressed and barriers began to break down, something remarkable happened. Humans and council representatives started talking not as potential adversaries, but as curious beings seeking to understand each other. Questions were asked and answered. Ideas were exchanged. The beginnings of genuine relationships started to form. Above it all, Admiral Akoy watched with satisfaction. Humanity had gambled everything on this moment, and it was paying off. They were being heard, respected, and taken seriously as partners in shaping the galaxy's future. It was everything they had worked for, everything they had sacrificed for. The age of human isolation was truly over, and the age of human partnership with the wider galaxy had begun. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity would face them not as primitives hoping for guidance, but as equals, ready to contribute their unique perspective and capabilities to the galactic community. The scout who had stumbled upon them months ago had become a bridge between civilizations. The training fleet that had defended their space had become a symbol of human determination. And now, in this conference hall, two very different civilizations were learning that despite all their differences, they shared common hopes for peace, prosperity, and understanding. It was, Zixth reflected as he watched them begin the long process of building trust, exactly what the galaxy needed.